All right, well, I guess I'd like to welcome the green group to our first day of notes online. I appreciate you watching. I hope you will watch these notes as intended and go ahead and fill in your guided notes as we do it. Even if you already know how to do stuff reasonably well, I think you will always find some new connection or something if you will spend the 15 minutes or so watching these notes and filling in your work. Another way to do it, by the way, is when we get to examples, you might pause the recorder and do the example and see if you get it right on your own. One more thing, I'm going to want you to do the homework like I do the example. So you might want to watch an example or two before you actually try it on your own. So let's get started. This is notes for section 2.4. The key here is using the correct order of operations. Of course, it's important to use the correct order of operations because if we do not, we would all get different answers based on whatever way we decided to do the order of operations in a problem. Like I have two examples here where if you do the order differently, you will get a different answer. In this first one, 4 plus 3 times 2, if I decide to do the 4 plus 3 first and get 7, and then I do 7 times 2 and get 14, that would be one way to get an answer. Whereas if I do the 3 times 2 first and get 6, and then I do 4 plus 6 and get 10, I get a different answer. So it's important mathematically that everybody uses the same order of operations to do a problem so that we consistently all get the same answer when we do a problem, right? This one obviously is wrong. You probably know that. 10's the right answer. Over here I have something similar. I could add the 5 and the 3 together first and get 8 and have 8 to the second power. Or then I could do the 8 to the second power and get 64. Or I could do the 3 to the second power first and get 9. And then do 5 plus 9 and get 14. And unlike the first problem, this time 14 is the correct answer. You would do the 3 to the second power first. All right? So, if you don't do the order of operations in the correct order, you are bound to get a wrong answer most of the time. And sometimes it turns out the same. So let's look at the correct order of operations. I think you probably know these. This should be reviewed from 7th grade. The first thing we do is parentheses, but it should not be called parentheses in my opinion. In my opinion, it should be called grouping symbols. Grouping symbols actually get done first. I think this should actually be called PEMDAS, not PEMDAS. But what you typically do is you do inside, and I like to emphasize that word inside any parentheses first. Now I say inside parentheses because parentheses do not always mean a grouping symbol mathematically. They have more than one meaning. There is a difference between 4 plus 5 times 2 plus 1 and 4, plus, not that, 4, I'm totally messing up, aren't I? Well, first let's do this one. This time the parentheses are being used as a grouping symbol. And I would do them first. I would do the parentheses first and get 4 plus 5 times 3. All right? But parentheses mean something else in math as well. Parentheses also mean multiplication. Like now, the parenthesis means multiplication in this problem. And if parentheses mean multiplication, you do not do them first. you do them when it's time to multiply. You know, if I had 5 times 3 plus 2 to the second power, I would not do the parentheses first. I would do the exponent first. Because in this case, the parentheses do not mean parentheses. They do not mean a grouping symbol. They mean multiplication. Can you tell the difference when they mean grouping or when they mean multiplication? Well, I'm here to tell you, if there is stuff to do inside the parentheses, you do that first. Otherwise, they probably just mean multiplication. All right, I spent enough time on that. Exponents, second. Apply all exponents. That is the next thing you do. All right, then comes the thing that people make the biggest mistake on. The biggest mistake is made on this multiply and divide. You know, I like to put this PEMDAS on stair steps like I've done over here on the left. Because multiplying and dividing gets done on the same step. Multiplying does not get done first just because the M comes first in the acronym PEMDAS, right? Multiply and divide gets done at the same time from left to right. So you do multiplying and dividing at the same time. You do whichever one happens to come first. That's the one you do first, going from left to right. And adding and subtracting is the same thing. It gets done at the same time from left to right. So both of these, multiplying, dividing, adding, subtracting, get done at the same time from left to right. All right, that's a review of PEMDAS. Let's look at a few examples. So this is the way I'm going to want you to do your homework, one step at a time. Of course, we could all just type these problems into our calculator, and we'd get, the calculator would most likely, if you typed it in right, give you the correct answer. But on your paper, I'm going to want to see you do it one step at a time so that I can see you're doing the correct operation in order, the correct operations in order each time. A lot of times on the air test at the end of the year, they will have you do the operations like one at a time to show you, or to show the correct order to do them in. So here we go. This is the way I'm going to want to see it. First here we would do parentheses. So there is something to do inside the parentheses. There's some subtraction. So I'm going to do this operation and get 5 plus 2 times 4, right? This problem does not have any exponents, so no exponents. The next step is multiply and divide, and it does have some multiplying right here. So I would do that next. 2 times 4 is 8. And finally, I would do the adding and get 13. Final answer of that problem would be 13. All right. You could try this one on your own first if you want, and then start the recording up again, or you could just do it as I do it. So in this problem, there are no parentheses. You know, I see there's parentheses here, but those parentheses are not there for, there's nothing to do inside them. They have another purpose. The second step is exponents, and I don't see any exponents. Well, that brings me to multiplying and dividing. And as I go from left to right, the first thing I see is dividing. So I'm going to do that operation first, and I'm going to keep everything else the same. 9 plus 8 times 4. Now, if I was doing this problem, I would take this minus a negative number, and I would change it to plus. Because subtracting a negative number really means you're adding. If you would like to leave that as minus a negative number, that's okay. I am still not done with the multiplying dividing step because there's also some multiplying to do. So I'm going to do that next. 9 plus 32 plus 2. And finally, I'm down to adding and subtracting, so I just go left to right. 9 plus 32 is 41, and 41 plus 2 is 43. Bam! All right, last example over here. I am going to do the parentheses first. There is something to do inside the parentheses. This would be 5 to the second power. There is an exponent in this problem, so I would do it next. This would be 10 plus 5 to the second power is 25. And finally, there's no multiplying and dividing, so this just leaves me with adding. 10 plus 25 is 35. All right? 3 examples. You've got a few of those to do on your homework tonight. All right, the next thing is something we actually did on Delta Math, and that is algebraic expressions. An algebraic expression is just an expression that has variables in it, right? Back here, these were numerical expressions. Numerical expressions just have numbers. Algebraic expressions include variables. And the only difference here when we evaluate an algebraic expression instead of a numerical expression is this step right here. The first thing we have to do is we have to replace the variable with its given value. So as I do this first example, I'm going to take what x equals, and I'm going to replace the x with 3. I'm going to rewrite the problem. It's going to be 7 plus 2 times, and instead of 5 times x, it's going to be 5 times 3 minus 4. And now I'm back to a problem where I just have to use the correct order of operations. So now it's the same as before, right? I would do parentheses first, and inside the parentheses, I would do the multiplying first. So this would be 7 plus 2 times 15 minus 4. And then I would finish off the parentheses here by subtracting 15 minus 4 and getting 11. There. Now I'm done with the parentheses. The next thing I see is there is some multiplying to do here. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 11 and get 22. And finally, I'm going to add those together and get 29. All right? I don't think we need to do this example. You have already practiced this skill actually on Delta Math some already, so hopefully you've got it. Okay, this last question is very important. Lots of people mess this question up because they don't understand the directions. The directions are just name the first single operation you should perform first according to the correct order of operations. I don't want you to do any of the operations. I don't want you to write down add, subtract, multiply, divide, whatever, parentheses. I want you to write down specifically what operation would be done first. So in this first example, there are 2 operations. There's 18 minus 3, and there's 3 plus 5. Which one do I do first? Well, there's no parentheses, there's no exponents, there's no multiplying and dividing, there's just adding and subtracting. And when we do adding and subtracting, we go from left to right. So the first operation I would do is 18 minus 3. Boom. That's all you have to do. This is a typical air test problem where they want you to name what operation comes first. All right, in this next one, what operation am I going to do first? Am I going to do 7 plus 4, 4 times 3, the 3, what? The 6 to the second power, the subtraction? Well, I do see parentheses in this problem, but those parentheses are only there to mean multiplication. There's nothing to do inside the parenthesis. So there are no parentheses to do. There is an exponent to do. This is the first operation. 6 to the second power is what you should write down here. That is the first thing I would do in this problem. In letter C, this time there are parentheses with stuff to do. and inside the parentheses. Because the first thing I would do is I would go inside the parentheses and do that. But inside the parentheses, you still have to follow the correct order of operations. And inside the parentheses, I would do the multiplying before I do the subtracting. So the first thing that gets done in this problem is actually 2 times 3. That would be the first operation performed. And last up over here, do you know what it is? Let's see, there's lots of operations. There's 3 different operations to do, but what's first? Well, again, I see parentheses, but there's nothing to do inside them, so that's not it. I don't see any exponents. I do see some multiplying and dividing, and we do multiplying and dividing at the same time from left to right. So the dividing happens to come first. That is what I would do first. Boom, I'm done. That's it for the notes for section 2-4. Work on your homework. We'll see you next week.